Aniket had just finished taking her bath. She dried herself and stood in front of her wardrobe, looking for the perfect nightwear to wear. Tonight felt different. It was her birthday, and she wanted to feel special. She carefully picked through her clothes, hoping to find something that would make her feel beautiful. Aniket had been married to Max for 3 years. But in all that time, something had always bothered her. Max had never touched her, not even once. No hugs, no kisses, no intimacy. At first, she thought maybe he was just shy or needed time. But as the months turned into years, nothing changed. She stayed quiet about it, hoping he would eventually come around. But he never did. Tonight, she was tired of waiting. It was her birthday, and she had asked Max to come home early. She had made up her mind, she couldn't stay silent anymore. She loved Max, and she wanted them to be close like a real couple. Earlier that week, Aniket had spoken with her friend. Her friend had told her something important: if Max doesn't make a move, then maybe you should. You're his wife, you have every right to take the first step. Those words stayed with Aniket, and tonight she was ready. She wanted to feel loved, to feel like a wife. So as she chose her nightwear, her heart beat a little faster. She was nervous, but also hopeful. Maybe tonight, everything would change. The doorbell rang, and Aniket quickly guessed who it was. That must be Max, my husband, she thought, feeling excited. Dressed in her lovely nightwear, she hurried to open the door, looking beautiful and full of hope. As the door swung open, there he was, Max, standing right in front of her. Her eyes lit up. "Honey, welcome back," she said warmly, smiling at him. Max walked into the sitting room without saying much, like he usually did. "How was your day today, honey?" Aniket asked gently as she helped him take off his work clothes. She wanted to make him feel relaxed and cared for. "My day was fine," Max replied calmly. Then he looked at her with a serious face and asked, "So, what's going on? Why did you ask me to come home early today?" Max had always been distant and cold toward Aniket. She had noticed it many times, but she tried to accept it, telling herself, that's just the way he is. She looked at him, trying not to feel disappointed, and said softly, "Honey, did you forget? Today is my birthday." Max looked surprised. "Oh. Happy birthday to you." "I forgot it was today," he said without much emotion. Aniket smiled, even though she felt a little hurt. "It's okay, honey. You're here now, and that's what matters to me." Aniket had spent the evening preparing a lovely dinner. She set the table nicely, placing the dishes with care and lighting a small candle in the middle. It was her birthday, and even though things hadn't been great between her and Max lately, she still hoped for a special moment. When Max went to take a shower, Aniket softly called out to him, "Dinner is ready. Come join me when you're done." She sat at the table, waiting patiently. After a while, Max came out, sat down, and they started eating. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Aniket kept looking at him, hoping he would say something, maybe wish her a happy birthday once again, maybe say a few kind words. But he didn't. He just ate his food silently, his face showing no emotion. Aniket felt a deep sadness rise inside her. "Am I that invisible?" she thought. "Is a simple, happy birthday too much to ask?" She kept hoping he would say something, anything. But dinner ended just as it began, silent and cold. She sighed quietly, not wanting to show how hurt she was. Then she looked down at her plate and thought to herself, well, what did I expect? This is who he's always been: distant, quiet, never showing warmth. I should stop expecting things to change. With that thought, she stood up slowly and began clearing the table, her heart heavy but her face calm. After dinner, Max felt tired and went straight to bed. He didn't say much, just quietly slipped under the covers and closed his eyes. A little while later, Aniket walked into the bedroom. She stood at the door for a moment, watching her husband lying there peacefully. Her heart was beating fast. Tonight, she had made up her mind. It was time to try her luck. For 3 years, they had been married, but Max had always kept a distance. He never made the first move, never touched her the way a husband usually would. Aniket had waited, hoped, and tried to be patient. But now, she felt like she had waited long enough. Her hands felt cold and her legs a little shaky. How do I even begin? She thought to herself. Should I just sit beside him? Maybe I should start by gently touching his arm. And then kiss him. Yes, that's what I'll do. She took a deep breath and gathered all the courage she had. Slowly, she walked over to the bed. She sat down beside Max and carefully reached out, her fingers gently touching his arm. Max opened his eyes, surprised. He looked at her and asked softly, "What are you doing?" Aniket looked into his eyes and said, "Honey, it's been 3 years since our marriage, but you've never touched me. I want to feel like a married woman too." Max looked at Aniket with a serious expression. He gently but firmly removed her hand from his arm. "I'm not interested," he said quietly. "Go to bed." Aniket froze. Her heart dropped. She blinked, trying to hold back the tears that were quickly filling her eyes. "Why?" she asked in a broken voice. "Am I not attractive enough? Or is there something I did wrong that makes you despise me?" Max sighed and looked away, avoiding her eyes. "You did nothing wrong to me," he said after a long pause. "This marriage. It wasn't my choice. It was my mother's idea, not mine. I only agreed to marry you because I wanted her to be happy." Aniket's chest tightened. Her tears started to fall. Max continued, his voice softer but distant. "I have someone I love. I've loved her long before I even met you. I tried to let it go, but I couldn't. I never wanted to hurt you, Aniket. I just didn't know how to tell you." Aniket sat still, stunned. The room suddenly felt colder, heavier. She felt like the ground beneath her had disappeared. "So all this time, we have been living a lie." Max didn't answer. He just turned over and faced the other side of the bed, silent. Aniket sat there in the dim light, wiping her tears. Her heart ached, but now she understood. She had waited for love that was never coming. She quietly stood up from the bed, careful not to make any noise. Her heart felt heavy, and her eyes were already swollen from holding back the tears. She walked slowly into the sitting room, where the only light came from a small lamp in the corner. She sat on the couch and pulled her legs close, wrapping her arms around herself as if trying to hold herself together. The silence of the room made her thoughts louder. Her eyes stared at nothing, but her mind was full. 3 years. 3 long years she had given to this marriage. She had cooked, cared, smiled, and waited. Waited for Max to open his heart. Waited for him to look at her the way husbands look at their wives. She had believed that love would grow with time, that one day he would see her differently, not just as a wife in name, but as someone to be loved, to be held. But now she knew the truth. She wasn't his choice. She was his mother's choice. Tears began to fall freely from her eyes. She didn't try to stop them this time. Her mind drifted back to how it all began. She remembered the first time Max's family came to see her. His mother had looked so happy. Everyone said Max was a good man, calm, respectful, responsible. She had been nervous, but also hopeful. And when he said yes to the marriage, she had smiled shyly, thinking maybe she was special to him. She remembered how she had looked at him during their wedding, hopeful eyes, a soft smile, her heart full of dreams. But Max, he had looked empty even then. She just didn't see it at the time. Aniket wiped her cheeks with the sleeve of her nightgown. Her chest ached from the truth. She wasn't unloved because she lacked anything. She was simply never meant to be in his story, but she was here now, married, waiting, hurting, and alone. As soon as Aniket left the bedroom, Max sat up on the bed, his thoughts swirling in confusion. He knew he hadn't been fair to Aniket, but he didn't want to break the promise he had made to Lisa. It had been a long time since Lisa went abroad, and Max had vowed to wait for her. To stay loyal to her no matter what happened in his life. Aniket wasn't a bad person, Max thought to himself. In fact, she was a good woman. She was attractive, kind, and had been a wonderful wife. Her gentle touch had almost made Max forget his promise. He had almost given in to the temptation, but he couldn't forget what he had promised Lisa. Max remembered how his mother had forced him into this marriage. She had told him that Lisa wouldn't make a good wife and had pushed him to marry Aniket instead, claiming that Aniket was their wife material. Max had agreed, but deep down, he had always felt conflicted. Aniket was a good wife in every way. She cared for him, supported him, and kept their home peaceful. But Max couldn't ignore the promise he had made to Lisa. For the past 3 years, Max had tried to find a reason to file for divorce. He had assured Lisa that he would find a way to end the marriage before she came back, but so far, nothing had come up. He had even hoped that Aniket would start cheating on him so that he could have a solid reason to leave. But Aniket hadn't done anything wrong. She had remained faithful and patient, even though Max never showed affection. Max found himself feeling conflicted. He should be sad that Aniket hadn't cheated, but he wasn't. Instead, he felt somehow happy, a feeling he couldn't quite explain. Was he actually starting to care for Aniket? Was he falling in love with her? It made everything feel even more complicated. Max felt trapped in a life he hadn't chosen for himself. The promise to Lisa weighed heavily on his heart, but so did the realization that Aniket had become more than just a woman he was married to. She had become someone he respected and maybe even cared for deeply. His life was so tangled in promises, expectations, and emotions. He didn't know what to do. He just knew that no matter what, he couldn't break his promise to Lisa. But now, he wasn't so sure about his feelings for Aniket. Would he continue living a lie, or would he confront the truth and face the consequences of his actions? Max lay back on the bed, lost in his thoughts, feeling more confused than ever. He ran a hand through his hair and sighed, his mind a whirlwind of emotions he had tried to ignore for far too long. He swung his legs off the bed and stood up, pacing the room. 3 years, he murmured to himself. 3 years of watching her wake up before dawn just to prepare breakfast. 3 years of quiet support and kindness. 3 years of loyalty, and I've given her nothing. He paused in front of the mirror and stared at his own reflection. There was guilt in his eyes, but also confusion. Aniket had never demanded anything from him. She had accepted the emotional distance, the cold silences, and the unreciprocated gestures. He thought she'd break. He hoped, at first, that she would. But instead, she bloomed. Gracefully. Patiently, Lisa's face flashed in his memory, the way she had looked at him that night at the airport, eyes full of trust as he made that promise. Wait for me. Don't commit to her, not truly. I'll be back soon. But soon had turned into years, and Lisa had become a memory preserved in long-distance calls and faded texts. Max sat back down on the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. I haven't broken the promise. But I haven't honored it either, he whispered. It was lunch break at work. As usual, Aniket sat with her close friend Lizzie to eat lunch. But today, something felt different. Lizzie noticed the sadness on Aniket's face. She wasn't her cheerful self. Hey, what's wrong? Lizzie asked gently. You don't look happy at all. Is something bothering you? Aniket looked away, staring into the distance. Her eyes looked heavy, and her voice was soft. It was all a mistake from the beginning, she said quietly. Lizzie looked confused. What do you mean? What was a mistake? Aniket gave a sad laugh. My marriage with Max. It was all a mistake. Lizzie's eyes widened in shock. What? Why do you say that? Max told me something. He said he never wanted to marry me. He's in love with someone else. He only married me because his mother chose me for him. Lizzie couldn't believe what she was hearing. You can't be serious, she said, almost whispering. Is that why he's been so distant? He hasn't touched you or even spent real time with you in 3 years. Aniket slowly nodded. Yes, she said. I finally decided to try, like you once suggested, to make the first move. But instead of responding, he pulled away and told me the truth. He said I'm not the one he wanted. Lizzie's heart was heavy with sympathy. There was nothing else to say for a moment. The lunch break continued in silence, but everything had changed for Aniket. I want to set him free, Lizzie, Aniket said softly, looking down at her half-eaten food. I'm going to get a divorce. I can't keep living with a man who treats me like I'm invisible. It's not fair, to me or to him. I think it's best for both of us. Lizzie looked at her friend with gentle eyes. I understand how you feel, Aniket, she said warmly. And whatever you decide, I'll be right here to support you. You're not alone in this. They sat silently for a while, the noise of the lunchroom fading into the background. The moment between them was quiet but full of emotion. There was sadness, but also a strange sense of relief starting to settle in Aniket's heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was taking control of her own life. I gave it my all, Lizzie, Aniket finally said, her voice steady now. I waited. I hoped. But I can't force love, and I don't want to keep hurting myself waiting for something that will never come. Lizzie reached over and squeezed her hand. You deserve to be loved fully, not halfway. You've been so strong, Aniket nodded. It's time I start choosing myself. Just then, the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch break. They both stood up, gathering their things. Max was sitting at his desk in the office, working quietly, when his phone suddenly rang. He looked at the screen and saw that it was Lisa calling. He quickly picked it up. "Hello, Max," Lisa said with a happy voice. "I just landed. I'm in town now." Max couldn't believe it. A big smile spread across his face. He felt so happy. "Welcome home, Lisa," he said warmly. "Let's meet after I finish work." Later that day, Max went to see Lisa. When she saw him, she walked up to him and gave him a big warm hug. "I've missed you so much over the years," Lisa said, holding him close. "I miss you too," Max replied, smiling back at her. They sat down together and ordered some food. While they waited, they talked and laughed, catching up on everything they had missed. It felt just like old times, and both of them were happy to be together again. As they ate and chatted, Lisa suddenly looked into Max's eyes and asked, "So Max, tell me, how has life been with you? How is your wife?" Max looked down for a moment, then replied, "She's there." "Nothing much." Lisa leaned in a little, her voice more serious now. "So, when are you getting a divorce for us?" Max froze. He slowly put down his spoon and looked away. His appetite was gone. "I haven't seen any strong reason to file for a divorce," he said quietly. Lisa stared at him in shock. "So you mean you want to stay married to her? What about me? Don't forget you promised me you'd divorce her before I came back to the city so we could be together. Are you breaking your promise?" Max sighed deeply and looked tired. "Lisa, it's not that simple. Aniket hasn't done anything wrong that I can point at and say this is why I want a divorce. She's actually been a good woman for the past 3 years. I need more time to figure things out." Lisa's eyes filled with frustration. "Max, have you been sleeping with her? You promised me you wouldn't be intimate with her." Max looked her straight in the eye. "I never broke my promise to you, Lisa. Then why are you still holding back from divorcing her?" Lisa asked, her voice now filled with hurt. Max looked at his watch. He stood up slowly and said, "I think I have to go, Lisa. It's getting late." Lisa sat there, silent, watching him leave. Her heart was heavy with confusion and disappointment. Max walked away, his thoughts tangled, unsure of what the right choice was anymore. Max got home after a long day. Without saying much, he went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. The warm water relaxed him, and for a moment, he forgot about the stress of the day. As soon as he came out, he heard Aniket's voice calling from the dining room, "Max, dinner is ready. Come and join me at the table." Max dried off, changed into something comfortable, and walked over to the dining area. The table was neatly set, and Aniket was already sitting down, waiting for him. They both sat quietly, eating their meal. The silence between them was heavy, but Max didn't think much of it at first. Then, Aniket broke the silence. "Max," she said softly, "let's get a divorce." Max froze. He almost choked on his food. He looked at her in shock. "What? What did you just say?" he asked, wide-eyed. "I said, let's get a divorce," Aniket repeated calmly. "I think it's best for both of us." It will also give you the chance to be with the person you truly love. Don't worry, I don't want anything from you. I just think we should go our separate ways, Max sat there, speechless. For the first time in his life, he felt truly rejected. He never imagined that Aniket would be the one to ask for a divorce. She had never complained once in their 3 years of marriage. Maybe he had taken her for granted. Maybe he never really saw how unhappy she was. Finally, he spoke, his voice filled with anger. You have no right to ask me for a divorce, he said firmly. Please, Max, Aniket replied gently. Let's just set each other free. We're both unhappy. Why should we continue to hurt each other like this? But Max stood up from the table, refusing to listen. I told you, you have no right to ask me for a divorce, he said again, then turned around and walked away, heading back to the bedroom, leaving Aniket sitting alone at the table. Max lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. His heart felt heavy, and his mind was full of thoughts. Why did he feel this way? Why did it hurt so much when Aniket mentioned divorce? For 3 years, he had kept his distance from her, not because he hated her, but because he was afraid. Afraid of getting too close. Afraid of breaking the promise he had made to Lisa, the woman he had loved before his mother forced him into this marriage. He had always believed that keeping his emotions locked away would protect everyone, especially himself. So he acted cold, distant, and uninterested. He never gave Aniket a real chance, never allowed her to truly know him. But she had been patient, calm, and respectful. She never complained. She simply lived with him, hoping one day things might change, and now, she had given up. Max closed his eyes and remembered the quiet moments, the way Aniket smiled when she served him tea, the way she adjusted the pillow under his head when he fell asleep on the couch, and the emptiness he felt whenever she was away visiting her parents or traveling for work. He missed her during those times, though he never admitted it, not even to himself, but every time she came back, he returned to his cold shell, acting like her presence didn't matter. But it did. It always did. Does this mean I've fallen in love with her? He whispered to himself, the thought scared him. He had never allowed himself to even consider the idea. Loving Aniket meant letting go of Lisa. It meant breaking the promise he had held onto like a shield all these years. But now, that promise felt like a chain around his heart. No, he said aloud, shaking his head. I won't agree to the divorce. Not yet. Not until I know for sure what I feel for her. He sat up slowly, thinking about what to do next. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't running away from his feelings, he was facing them. And it terrified him. Just as Max was deep in thought, his phone started ringing. He looked at the screen. Lisa. He hesitated for a moment before picking up. Hello. He said quietly. Hey Max. Lisa's voice came through, light and familiar. Let's see tomorrow. I'll send you the address. Okay, Max replied almost automatically. I'll be there. She hung up shortly after, and Max slowly placed the phone on the bedside table. He lay back down, staring once again at the ceiling, but this time, his thoughts weren't only about Aniket or the divorce. Now Lisa was back in the picture, someone he once loved deeply, someone he had promised to wait for. Yet strangely, the call didn't excite him. It didn't bring the happiness when he heard her voice. Instead, it brought confusion. Why didn't he feel that same spark anymore? His mind drifted back to Aniket. How come she looked earlier at the dinner table? How certain her voice sounded when she asked for a divorce. She wasn't angry. She wasn't trying to hurt him. She just wanted peace, for both of them, and yet, here he was, lying awake, bothered by the thought of losing her. He closed his eyes and sighed deeply. What am I even doing? He thought. He had said yes to meeting Lisa, but now he wasn't even sure why. Was it out of habit? Or guilt? Or was he trying to hold on to something that had already slipped away? He turned to his side, facing the empty space beside him on the bed, the space Aniket had never truly taken. Because she had her separate room. And now, it might be too late. Still lost in thought, Max whispered to himself, I need to figure this out. Before I lose everything. Lisa sat alone on the couch, deep in thought. Her mind was full of questions and worries. Why do I feel like Max is slowly slipping away from me? She wondered. Has he fallen in love with that woman? The thought made her heart ache. No, she said to herself, trying to push the fear aside. I have to do something. He hasn't touched her in the last 3 years. That must mean he still loves me. She tried to hold on to that small hope. The truth was, Lisa didn't love Max for who he was. She was with him because of his family's wealth. If Max hadn't come from a rich background, she would never have stayed this long or even considered marrying him. All Lisa really wanted was to live a soft, easy life, what she called a baby girl life, free from struggle or stress. That's why she stayed with Max. If not for his money, she would have said yes to Ben a long time ago. Ben was different. For the past 3 years, Lisa had dated him. He was kind, calm, and very gentle. In fact, he always made her feel special, and their time together on bed was passionate and fulfilling. She admitted to herself that she truly loved Ben. But love wasn't enough for her. Ben was just an average guy with a simple life, and he couldn't give her the rich lifestyle she dreamed of. Sighing deeply, Lisa stood up from the couch. Without saying a word, she walked quietly into the bedroom, unsure of what to do next.